Here we go. The wine jokers are again. We are super proud and honored. Feel super lucky to have with us the special, unique, one and only Charlie Arturaola. For the one who, of course, you know him, I mean, you should get already be familiar with him. We already had several interviews, live stream. But Charlie Arturaola, among the tons of things he has been doing, he is actually the only Hispanic American who won in 2012 the International Wine and Spirit Award. Wow. And always in 2012, he was the wine communicator in Verona Fiere for the Italian wine trade. So, guys, join us for a big round of applause to welcome Mr. Charlie Arturaola. But this is just a small
Thank
part
you.
of what Charlie Arturaola is. We are going to get to know him better during the interview. So, Charlie, please, if you don't have any question, we start with the interview. If you don't want to say anything, we start.
I mean, I'm so happy to be with. I'm so happy to be with you because you guys actually are the young face of the wine business, not only in England but in all Europe, and that I'm very proud to be with you. You are the future. I'm part of the past present. You know, I mean, I'm 61 years old. I've been working in serving wine since I'm 23 years old, and I have to say, all for the wine trade, and the people that they want to learn wine, and the people that they want to be in wine, and the people that they want to study wine. That is so important. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you very much for accepting and joining us. Let's get started. Our friends want to know you better. So let's jump into the first question. When did you first, Charlie, start showing interest in the world of wine, and how did you get into the world of wine?
Oh, well, it's a very good story. Many people actually ask me where you were born, Charlie. I was born in Uruguay, in Montevideo, Uruguay. My family is from the countryside, but when I say this, it's so important to say that my family was multicultural, right? Family from the Basque Country, my mother from Europe too. I didn't know much about my family. My mother died young, but I have to say I grew up under a pergola. So when you grow up under a pergola and your father makes 200 liters of wine every year, you know, you smell wine. You smell wine, you smell fermentation. And I remember, like, I probably was very young, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. I would get to the ladder with a scissor and cut, you know, the grape bunches and put it on the big tank and of course try to stomp grape like everybody does. But when I was 11 years old, my father sent me with his best friend to a vineyard to see how is the vineyard, the work of a vineyard. You want to know something? I came back after half an hour. I didn't want to have calluses in my hand, and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "This is an interesting business, but if I ever want to be in the wine business, I want to be in the other side of the fence, no, in this side of the fence, right? I don't want to have calluses and work, you know, and cut grapes. Yeah, I have to say, later in my 20s, I got some grapes in Spain, but I was actually interested always, you know, and when people say to me, of course, you know, many people are saying, okay, Charlie, you travel the world, you know, my passport has probably, you know, more than 90 countries that I went around because I work in a cruise line. And I served wine on a cruise line business when I was in my 20s. And I traveled, you know, between Cyprus to the Canary Islands or from, you know, southern part of Italy all the way to Morocco, learning about wine, buying wine in all the northern African countries. And I always wanted to see, you know, and to learn about the grapes. And that is probably what I like to say. I owe this to my cousin, that she was a professor in biology when I was in my young years, and she taught me about fermentation. She taught me how the plant works, you know, photosynthesis and all that. Now, I learned much later that that was too sophisticated for me. Yes, the laboratory, the grapes, and all the little things that you have when you learn wine. Of course, the chemistry behind it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Now, one day, being a young kid, and this is part of a movie that I made that you probably remember. It's called The
Of
Ways of
course.
Wine, right? It's an
Yes.
Argentinian movie, and there the narration was that Charlie, being a very young kid, he put his nose against a big barrel, and because he was running away from a football game, that it was a big brawl and people were fighting, and my cousin said to me, if there's a big brawl, you run to the winery. So the old Italian guy who used to own a big winery, and by the way, it was abandoned, the winery was abandoned, I jump into the barrel and I hide. Now I put my nose against the barrel, and that aroma of the wine from an old barrel stick to me until today. So I said,
Wow.
oh my, I have a nose. I think I have a nose for wine. So so
Yes, one of the
so and as you probably know this because you guys are young, and there's so many youngsters today that they want to be, yes, the best sommelier in the world, the best wine tasters in the world. Now, to make the story short, I'm in Spain I'm at late teens. I'm 19 years old. I'm in Madrid. I see two people tasting wine, and they're tasting sherry. And one day, one person say, "Oh, this is from this side of the river. This is from the other side of the river." And I say, "Wait a second. I mean, it's nice to serve wine. It's nice to talk about wine. But these people from their palate, they're telling me what side of the river this sherry is from." Of course, we're talking Andalusia, right? Andalusia is rich. Andalusia, and I bring a little bit of history here. Jerez, was one of the first towns of the Phoenicians, 11
Yes.
centuries ago, 12 centuries ago. It was very popular for trade as well, in the medieval times. But the Phoenicians were
Yeah.
much before the Romans, right? So
Yeah.
to tell you this, in college, I was punished with Italian and Greek history. I mean, punished in terms of I repeat the class three times. Three times. The
Three
Italian
times.
professor say, Mr. Arturaola, you have to go back and study more. So I learned so much about Julius Caesar. I learned so much about Romulo and Remo. I learned so much about the Greek god and goddesses, that I say, oh, I like history. And I have to say today, when I go to Italy, or when I go to Greece or southern France, or right here, because I live in Normandy, very close to a very Roman site where the Romans used to actually travel to England through the English Channel, I have to say, I love history through wine. Now, I made myself, and this is, you guys are very young, but in my 20s, my first big wine job was to bring back a cellar in the Dominican Republic. Imagine, I was in Spain. I go to the Dominican Republic. I work with some great waiters and maîtres that they knew a little bit about, Chablis, Polyfusé, Polyfumé, Merceau, Chassagne Montrachet, Pouligny Montrachet. And those days we
God.
didn't have Google. We didn't have Google, right? So I will write down the towns where every wine label was
Yeah.
coming from, right?
And that's
And
how.
then on the weekend, and then I learned, where every time was, and with that, I will learn what kind of grape, is behind the label. Now, I'm a history buffer, of course. I want to know why the grape got to there, who is the family making the wine, what are the denomination of origins behind, and why, and what are the laws and the disciplinary things that a wine is supposed to have, of course, to be bottled as the name of the denomination. So that really is the fun part of what I did since I was 23 years old. I mean, I was so lucky, I will say, in a way, to be with a bunch of Spanish, Portuguese, Italians, with a chef from Korea, chef from Spain, chef from Portugal, chef from America.
Different culture.
I work in the Caribbean. I work in the Caribbean. I work in Bermuda. And I start coming to the United States. Already I was probably, I don't know, 23, 24 years old. But then I was coming I wanted to be the best maitre d' in town, doing my flambé, doing my cherry jubilee, and all those things. But I remember like today, much later in my career, a fellow that I need to get his name here because his name is Ricardo Polito. He is from Verona, from actually Padova. He said, Charlie, every time you go to a table, you're not a maitre d', you're a wine guy. You don't know this, but I know because you're always talking about the wine pairing. You're always talking about how the wine tastes with this food and how this wine, flavor of the Sauvignon Blanc, of the Sangiovese, or the Tempranillo. And I said, look, Tempranillo, that was my first grade. Look, I'm living in Spain. I'm coming from a country, Uruguay, that Tanat was not even called Tanat. In Uruguay, the name of the grape, it was called Arriague because of the Basque settlers, right? Our family is from the Basque country, so we know the names of every Basque family that lives there, right? So imagine me, Tempranillo, when I'm in my teens drinking wine in every bar in Madrid, right? So I say, I like this flavor. I like this spicy flavor. I love this. I love this connection of me with history, wine, place, family, and that's how I brought myself to learn more about wine. Now, put it this way, and my friends from Friuli all the time. I have a woman that I admire. Her name is Patricia Feluga. Say, Caro Charlie, you are like the old people from the cruise lines. You learn in the best way in the cruise line when the white gloves were white gloves and the serving was so proper, and you learn from the best. You say, yes, Patricia, this is me. Say, my grandfather was the same and my father was the same. Every time they left Trieste, they will come back richer and richer in experience, in anecdotes and stories. But I choose to bring stories through wine. I choose to bring stories through labels. I choose to enrich the people that I'm serving the wine because, I have to say, yes, we should know. I mean, lucky me, I'm married to a woman that was in the wine business, in the port business for many, many years in America. We actually got married in the Douro, right? We spent our honeymoon in the Minho, Vinho Verde place, right?
Verde.
And these are Vinho Verde, and this is one of the oldest denominations of wine in Europe, together with Tokai, as you probably know. But when I talk about this, and I said, even now that for the last 2 years I'm living in Normandy, and I said, this has something to do with me as well, because I grew up not with wine, drinking homemade wine, sometimes undrinkable, and we put a little bit of Coca-Cola or a little bit of Fanta, because it was really bad. My father didn't make a good wine. But we have to respect, the old man was making wine. So fermentation was added with a little bit of sugar in order to speed up the process of, So my father was having his own recipe of but then later on the business we know that is called chaptalization, right? When you chaptal the wine in order to accelerate the process of the alcohol. My father was the king of that. But when I think about my career and for a guy who was a maitre d', he was a waiter, he was a bartender. I was a commis. I was a person who helped to clean a cellar in a Spanish restaurant, and I started selling wine to Atlantic City, to some of the best casinos in Puerto Rico, in Atlantic City, and the Dominican Republic. Believe it or not, 5 or 6 bottles of wine cost me my first marriage because my wife did did like me to have the wine, and whenever I sell it, I was bringing $3, $4, $5,000. This is 1984, 85, and she will get mad with me because I will have $5,000 profits from selling wine, old wine. And when I say old wine, my first bottle of old wine was 1933 Higuay Logroño from Rioja. Higuay Logroño, one of the, I couldn't believe a bottle from 1933 was still alive and was a Spanish Tempranillo, you know, from Rioja. Marqués de Murrieta, that today is known, of course, more for Higuay Logroño, the Castillo Higuay. But I have 1943 bottles of Mouton. I have 1955 bottles of Chateau Bechevel. Now, you tell me, I'm a 24-year-old kid. Do you think I knew them? No way. But everybody those days were giving me $100, $120 for a bottle. One day I make so much money that my wife said, back then, my first wife, say, what are we going to do with all this money? Are we going to buy a new house? Are we going to put the down payment for the house? Or we buy a car? They say, no. We're going to buy more wine and sell more wine. And then she said, oh, you're out of your mind. Are you out of your mind? I said, no, look, I'm talking to these big casino people, right? I have these great deals. So, as I said before, I was, yes, a good wine waiter, but what happened? There's a fellow who heard about me, who was a pilot. He said, oh, man, I can take you throughout the islands of the Caribbean, and we start buying wine. So I started buying wine in San Martin. My second son, actually, the younger one, his name is Martin because I was in San Martin when he was born. My wife then called me. She goes, how are we going to name this kid? And then I'm looking at all the places. I say, San Martin, Martin. I say, okay, we call him Martin. And my wife says, why are we going to call him Martin? No, let me tell you, this island is beautiful. I love San Martin. And she couldn't believe, of course. And I was making, profitable business of wine. And I would bring about $10,000, $20,000 worth of wine to the Dominican Republic in a plane. Champagne those days, Dom Perignon was $25, $26. Bottle of Moet was $11, $14. A bottle of Mouton or Lafitte was $29 to $32. And I was having cases. And my job was to sell it. And of course, I became a wine expert. But what happened? I got divorced. Of course, my wife, didn't want to be with me because I became so fixed about making business of wine, right? Mm. So my to go, I would say, was always try to be into the adventure of the wine business because one day I throw a party. You work in hotel hospitality, you know how is this. At the end of the year, somebody come and buy 25 bottles of Dom Perignon. Someone actually put $100 under the bottle, and he said, I wait for you in Miami next week. Imagine, say, what this guy want with me in Miami.
That's the deal.
Yeah, and he said, I called the guy and said, I know how much money you make. I made the numbers. I got the mathematics. We're going to offer you 6 times more what you're making here. You dominate the main dining room. You know wine. You want spirits. You're an administrator. You're the perfect guy for a cruise line. And then I said, no, I don't know. I have a family. So they offered me a job on a cruise line as a maitre d', to make 6 times more money than I was making in the Dominican Republic. Now, when I say this, and this is actually for the youngster, I took a risk. But when I say I took a risk, I really follow, what my heart was doing is follow the wine. Follow the wine because I say, okay, I'm going to start traveling the world. I want to start traveling and I want to learn about places. I want to learn about experiences. I want to learn about people. And this is something that cost me, of course, part of my life to be away 4 or 5 years, Yes. the interest was always the label. The interest was always the region. The interest was always the politics behind every grape. The interest was always to learn where is that grape come from and why. That's that's why when people, I mean, and this is many years. I mean, I wanna make it, try to make it the most simple I can. But 1999, I'm going to Bordeaux to learn about how to taste wine to a wine school, and somebody said to me that in Saint-Emilion they invented wine. And then I look at this fellow and I say, wait a second. I work in Italy and the Greek islands, and I work in the Lebanon. I work in Haifa, Israel. It was wine there already 4 or 5 centuries ago. And you tell me that the wine it was made here in Saint-Emilion. What are you talking about? I say, the Romans came here. Before the wine came to Saint-Emilion, it was in Cahors. And before Cahors, it was in the south in Marseille. And before the south in Marseille, it was in the Sardinian island. Was in Corsica, because the Phoenician. The guy looking at me say, are you an storyteller? I say, no, I'm not a storyteller. I serve wine in many of the islands of the Mediterranean, and I follow the grape and I follow the history. Now, yes, Charlie went to the Master Sommelier School. I'm a dropout. You know, I dropped out. I walked away. I didn't like what I saw. I respect how people study WSET in England. I respect what they do with the wine in England. In the United States, unfortunately, we became so. It's like we give the title to people that they buy 100 cases, 200 cases, 300 cases. I didn't like that, and I was in the top of my game. You know, when I was probably 25 years ago, because I was able, as I said before, to buy wine, to direct, wine stewards, to be in charge of $10 million worth of wine, to be a wine professor at the university in Boca Raton, Florida. And as I said to you, one day I got a phone call from someone who say, you speak 5 languages, and I've been seeing you in social media that you speak, one session in Spanish and the other in Italian and the other in French and the other in Portuguese or in English. He said, you should be, a wine communicator. And I said, no, I don't want to be a wine communicator. I mean, my job in this is just to put back of everything I learned traveling. 5 different passports, fill up, And when I say this, I was so lucky to be the only Hispanic American to win at the International Wine Spirit at the Banquet Hall in London, the place where my wife was born in Chelsea, grew up in New York, but her parents, they were from England. And to tell my father-in-law that, I came to England, of course, to pick up an award. Now, did I look for it? No. I remember Marchese Antinori. You're drinking an Antinori wine. Marchese Antinori to me at Verona Fiere goes, one day, hear that. Método tradicional. Tradicional. Yeah. When I say this, Marchese Antinori said, Charlie, thank you so much for what you do for Italian wine. And I said, Marchese, what I do for Italian wine is like I will do for Spanish wine, I will do for French wine, I will do for Portuguese wine. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I put the passion on it. Now, from that kid, that put the nose against the barrel, ended up, at the Banquet Hall of England, making a speech in front of 1,200 people. More or less is the fun of the street, I mean, how that sounds for you guys?
My God, it's insane. I mean, a lot has been achieved, right? And a lot has been achieved. And Charlie, you're an example to everyone who is involved in the world of wine. Really, congratulations for what you have
Thank
achieved.
you.
And actually, my question would be regarding something very important, because we talk about wine. When we talk about wine, we talk about people. When we talk about people, we talk about connections. But for you, And actually, the wonderful thing about wine for me is this, that, for instance, it is thanks to wine that we got to know it and to meet each other. But my question is for you
Right.
as far as you are concerned, what is your favorite aspect of the world of wine?
Well, I think every person who is in the wine industry today, I was very keen into trading, buying, making a wise choice to invest. As I said before, I work for a very powerful restaurant group, the Robert De Niro restaurant group. We were five
Yeah.
people, and between the five people, there were $25 million worth of wine buying. So
But was it
my side for a hotel was what?
Robert De Niro restaurant? Is Nobu?
Yes, yes.
The
Yeah, Nobu Tribeca Grill. Tribeca Grill. Yeah, Tribeca Grill. So
Di
when
Tribeca.
this is on the big days, right? 22, 25 years ago. But I have to say that I was eager to my job was to make a wine list and to make it understandable and digestible to people that they were going to come to our restaurant. It was a Tuscan restaurant with 800 labels. Imagine, 800 labels. And then one day the food and beverage director came to me and he said, "No, baby, you should be the wine director of the whole hotel. I give you the 6 restaurant, I give you the 22 bars, and you become, the wine guru here." And I was a kid. I was 40, in my early 40s. And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can do it." "Yes, you can do it. You make a wine list. But I say, make sure nobody drinks wine. And if they drink wine, they better know what they're writing." And you know what I did? As you probably know, and you know the restaurant, the hotel business, everybody like a glass of wine at nighttime before go home, right? And I will tell the guys and the girls, I say, "Listen, if you steal from me a glass of wine, you better put three adjectives, three wine, characters that you find in that glass of wine that you just took the glass. And that is what you're going to tell me before you go home." "Oh, I drank a Chianti Classico today. It was very nice and powerful, very velvet tannin. I love it. I love it." But the food and beverage director said to me, "If I see anybody drinking wine at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they go home. And you go home with them because you're getting them drunk." I say, "No, no, no. We were having 400 waiters in a hotel. 400. And let me just tell you, I make everybody to learn the wine by the glass, the wine bottles, the upselling, the not selling, and that was fun at that time. It was difficult for me to learn, of course, the innuendos that you find when you find, completely different cultures, because you have Filipino, you have Colombians, you have Mexicans, you have Costa Rica people, you have Argentinians, you have Italian, Portuguese, of course, you have a insalata, you have a salad of people. So you have to have to have the mentality to handle, right? So when I talk about that, that was then. And then, of course, became the time that, yes, you're a wine director, you're in charge of a $10 million worth of wine, but, oh my God, I like to taste wine. You probably saw me lately in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I'm one of the coaches for tasting at the international wine. No, I'm sorry. Shush, I shouldn't say that
Certo.
now. It's the Concours Mondial of Brussels, right?
Of course, we
So
met over
at the
there.
Concours Mondial of Brussels, right? That's where we met. Alben Aghen. I am the guy who trains, Spanish people, Sloveno people, French people, all the young palates that they come, because I remember those guys from the sherry. Wait a second, and that is my question for the youngsters today. Now, you want to be a sommelier because you want to serve wine and be on the nice voyage, on the nice adventure, serving wine and telling everybody about the wine, or you want to look nice with a beautiful glasses and beautiful little bow tie, right? And you want to be the king of the table, because they are. There's many today, many. I see them
True.
at the level of the competition of sommeliers all the time. Now, it is important to serve wine, but it is important to learn so much about the back label. It is important about to know what grape you are talking about. And Charlie Arturaola has been able to be balancing that. A little bit of everything that the wine career actually got us. Now, when you talk about, your question is so important. What happened, today for me is much more the enrichment of wine communication. Wine communication, people don't know yet, and of course some of them, I just came today. I did a great video about champagne. I didn't want to do it because it's my friend. I got to say, hey, Philippe, shall we do something? I like the champagne that you serve. We got some great tapas. By the way, the Benoche, as I say to you, is the only tapas place that is open throughout the afternoon in the downtown Epernay. Listen, every restaurant closes at 2 o'clock. These people are open throughout the afternoon. It's packed. It's packed. You go and drink champagne and eat tuna, eat Iberico, eat mozzarella, Madonna. So, a little bit of Italy, a little bit of France, a little bit of the Basque Country. And when I
Wow.
say
Wow.
this, yeah, no, it's worth to be there. Let me tell you, it's Champagne de Venoge. But when I said to Philippe the other day, I mean, yesterday and today, I said, look, we are always looking for the most expensive wine. Many sommeliers like to sell you the most expensive wine. They like to sell you the most, costly, vintage ever. And for myself, it's like I'm going the other way. I'm gonna teach you a little percentage, story that we have in America, which is, of course, I carry that with me for the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years. I used to work for the 2% of the rich people of the United States. Myself serving wine, being the sommelier. I didn't care if I got to come back at 2 o'clock in the morning. I work in the finest 3, 4, and 5-star places in South Florida, and I work in the cruise lines, and I work in fine resorts, in fine hotels, and everybody was saying all the time, give me the $400 bottle of Sassicaia, or give me the Grand Cru, Bolnay, or give me a Grand Cru, from Montrachet, and then I said, okay, sir, but that's fine, I serve wine to many famous people in my life that they didn't know anything about wine. They just got the money. And then, as you see now in the social media, what's going on, there's about 87% of them that they don't know where they're going, but they have 20 quid, they have 10 quid, to buy a bottle of wine, and they don't know what is the grape. They don't know what is the law. They don't even know, I see this over here where I live. People don't have an idea, and that's what Charlie is going to be, right? I talk about the 2%, and I talk about the 87%, right? 87, 4, 5, 8, 3, 87, blah, blah. So, but now you tell me, what is the other 11%? The other 11%, they got 50 quid, or they have 100 quid. They can buy a bottle of wine, and you know what they do? They go to social media, they pick up, hey, like me, happen. Every time I talk about a wine that it has no representation in the United States, people come and say, Charlie, do you voucher that wine? Do you like that wine? Tell me, who is the connection? That is where the bread and butter is today, right? But also communication directs to the 87% that they're jumping in the social media tonight, that they want to learn, what you guys, me, myself, communicators, what we are drinking. Oh, look at this guy, what he's drinking. Look what, they drinking. You think, more technicians we come. This is the other problem we have. We have more technicians of wine in today's world. They are doctors, they just need the white tunic, and then, you feel like, oh my God, I mean, this guy knows so much. Let me tell you, I knew, and he's still alive. He's a great guy. He was the president of the International Sommelier. Every time he started talking about Cabernet, everybody was snoring in the back. They were falling asleep because he didn't know how to tell the story. And that
Of
is a
course.
wonderful thing about what we do. And when you talk about, the journey of wine, I was able until today to do all the phases, all the steps that anybody. Now, if you ask me today, I'm 61 years old. Do I miss the hospitality? Do I miss the hotel? Yes. You know why? Because I used to learn so much about what people are drinking. Aghen, Alben, you guys are young. You are every day with people. Say, well, okay, what do you like? I got a food and
Yes.
beverage director that he likes Sangiovese. I got the CEO, the money guy who likes Barolo. God forbid
Yeah.
you give the grown wine.
You
If you
see,
give
you see the
Brunello to one guy who likes the what?
you see the preferences, the things that they like and they dislike, what they usually drink. So it's very important if you work in the hospitality industry.
But that is your temperature. That is how you pick up because you're every day with people. Now,
Yeah.
I drink what I drink. I mean, I'm so lucky because I've been collecting wines since 1991, and
Yes.
I have a good collection. I hope one day you guys can come and visit, and we share a nice bottle of wine. I save Bordeaux. I save Toscano wines. I have some California wines and ports. My wife and I, we are big in ports because when she retired, she bought like 300 bottles of port, right? So, and we came from the U.S. with 1,000 bottles that we pay taxes. We carry our own wine here. Now, of course, as you
Yes.
know, I taste Italian wine all the time. I taste Italian wine all the time, and I love the idea of learning, about my neighborhood. I live not even 3 hours away from the Champagne, 2.5 hours to the Loire Valley, Sancerre, Bourgueil, Nicolas de Bourgueil, Saumur, all that area. But I like the idea of telling people out there in social media why you should actually buy today a 5 euro wine or a 10 euro wine. And if you want to celebrate, I'm about to do a video tonight. I hope I can make it because I'm chilling the champagne. I just came with a car full of champagne for I went crazy. It's cheap, let me tell you. If I tell you how much a bottle of champagne costs in Miami, you need $60, $70. Here is 22, 25, 32. I saw a bottle of today. I saw a bottle of Berkeley Cove for 32 euros. I say, oh my God, that's cheap. A bottle of that used to be like $80 already. But when I say this, of course, lucky we are to get the possibility to try different flavors, try different labels, try
Yeah.
different grapes. And when a youngster come up to me, I mentor probably more than 1,000 people since 1998. When a youngster said to me, why I should do or what I should follow, I said, do you know what kind of grape you like? And they look at
Mm.
you, how come? No, no. I mean, for sure, Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay is not the same, or Riesling is not the same. I mean, each one of them has a characteristic that you got to carry on and learn. And take how the phrase goes, and I'm happy to send it to you. I learned in America a long time ago, taste memory, the ability, right, to remember, that note or that tasting note in your palate. Because I do remember, one day, as something that I probably don't say too much about my wine career, is that I was an appraisal for 14 years for insurance companies. I was a paid pallet. They were paying big bucks for being a pallet for insurance company in the United States. And a guy said to me in a very, very heavy, I would say, trial about a wine cellar, are you going to tell me you remember 1982 bottle of Bordeaux? I say, sir, I start tasting wine officially in 1981, officially. 82 was my first job serving wine. I remember like today. I throw a Chianti Classic on a glass of Pinot Grigio in the back of a woman that she went crazy because she was going to the theater. And I say, Mom, don't worry, I give you the tablecloth. I say, what tablecloth? I'm going to the theater. I mean, my back is all full of red wine and Pinot Grigio. I mean, I was with a tray that the tray fell, and I say, I was drying her back with a tablecloth, and I say, oh, bring it tomorrow. I take it to the cleaner. And say, what cleaner? She wanted to kill me, and I was a kid, And the Napolitano, the Napolitano guy say, Charlie, go to the kitchen. I don't want these people to see you because they're gonna kill you. Of course, I didn't know how to carry a tray. I was 22 years old, but I learned. I learned from the very bottom. And when people say to me, okay, what kind of books? You guys asked me a question. What kind of book actually was important to you? You know what kind of book?
Yes.
Yes, the Oxford Encyclopedia is great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's the best tool. But that was when we didn't have Google. That was when we didn't have social media. We didn't have things to read online every day because I read a lot about everything. I read politics, I read wine, I read football, and as you probably know, I'm involved in TV shows with football players that they make wine in Italy. And when I say, remember that book, Wine and War? Have
Wine
you
and
heard
War?
about that book?
No. Wine and
Yes.
War. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think I heard of it. Charlie.
It's amazing times of the world because Bordeaux was full of Germans and the Germans were taking the wine from the families in Bordeaux, and this is during the war. And I always remember, going to Bordeaux, going to Medoc, and I went down to the caves, in an old chateau where the Germans were trying to steal all the wine, right? And when you actually talk about the history of wine, um, that is important to us too, because how these people survive, how these Jewish families were living behind, that they wanted to kill them, and they were family that they were, in the courtage. Now you tell me, if you gave me to choose, what would be your favorite, 1700 or the 1855, when Bordeaux became Bordeaux by law, I will be a good courtage because I always like to taste new things and bring it to the front. And that is what what I love. Wine and War actually tells you everything what happened mostly in Europe, mostly in France throughout the war. What happened in Burgundy, what happened in the Champagne area. Today I drove between Epernay and Reims.
So,
and I said to myself, imagine the history here, how the Germans were coming here, and it's in the book. It's in the book. I love the idea of reading new books about tasting, but everybody has a different palate. Now, as you probably know, you guys are young. You have profiles of grapes sometimes, right? And then you know what is the white wine. If a Pinot Grigio is made in Friuli, it's not going to be the same Pinot Grigio made in Liguria or in Abruzzo or in Sicilia, But in today's world, this is how wonderful it is. The wine world is for everybody who really wants to put a little bit of thinking and a lot of passion and heart. Remember that.
oh my God, thank you for your answer, Charlie. It was very insightful. I'm gonna buy Wine and War. I mean, it's clear now what you have been doing in the wine world in the past. You did a lot, but now we would like to know what you are currently doing in the world of wine, and why did you decide?
What I'm currently Well, about 10 years ago, we made the Ways of Wine. It's a very nice, when actually Malbec became the grape of the first, I would say the big falling of the banking right system in America. Malbec was the grape with the right time in the right time with the right price for everybody. Malbec. So I was able to go to Argentina because I was working for, not working, but I was called to be like the grandfather of the sommelier in South America for the Park Hyatt Hotel. And they came over to me and they said, Charlie, you'll be a good guy to coach, like, I don't know, 50 sommeliers there, 50 sommeliers. But Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and we work very good in as a team, just catering for almost 500 people every night, every day, every night, lunchtime and dinner time. Now, when you talk about the TV shows or movies, this is a new thing, how you communicate. And of course, it was really good for me and my wife, also Pandora, is in the movies. We start actually learning so much that it was a very good to communicate through, telling a story. Now, the story of the Ways of Wine is the story of a guy who lost his palate. Now, put in perspective, COVID was not even around yet. This is 10 years ago, right? Today we have COVID. And we have
Yeah,
problems
in
with
fact,
people's palate, right?
I was thinking about it last
Right.
night.
Yeah. Yeah, we make a movie about that 10 years ago. Now, when you think about that, people were coming to me and say to me all the time, we are, so proud of what you did, how you did it. Of course, you're like an actor. You make me cry. You make me laugh. It's a little story of the family. My father making wine. His last cuvee, actually, it was served, in that movie. We played bocce, we drank red wine with different glassware, no fancy glasses like we have today.
Yeah.
Some of my family members, they were there. The movie actually was make-believe, was all made in Argentina, but finished in Uruguay. And then, when you actually do something because of your passion, you're called to be in Berlin, in Cannes, and San Sebastian Film Festival. And people look at you and say, oh, man, you're a good actor. I say, no. I drank a lot of, Fernet Branca with Coca-Cola. I drank a lot of grappa in between. I drank a lot of, when people were coming up to work, I was going to sleep because I will be coming back from filming at 6 a.m. in the morning, and my days were upside down. I was a teacher at the university at the moment. The dean actually kicked me out of the school because he said, oh, if you're going to become an actor, you better actually be an actor, but don't teach in our wine school. So I lost my job as a professor in the university in Boca Raton. But we have 5 years, I will say, going around the world and explaining the movie, to people with Michel Roland, with a very good partner, I would say, in crime, which is Donato Di Santis, an Italian fellow who is a big-time chef in Food Network, right? In Argentina, master chef in Argentina. He was the ex-chef of, no, not Giorgio Armani, Gianni Versace in Miami Beach. He himself, together with Michel Roland and myself and my wife and some other winemakers, we did this movie that actually it was very, very well praised all over the world in about 7 languages. And of course, the one in Chinese and the one in German was very powerful. We actually went around the world. And, after that, I was able to do a TV show, The Wine Guys, in Canada with a production team. And then we did The Duel of Wine. It's an Italian comedy. And then from that, we make the best sommelier in the world in Mendoza. I'm part of the interviewers there. And then I make something about Tanat. Now, yes.
When are we going to make a movie together?
Oh, wait, no, the next one. This is 2023 is bringing a lot of good leads. I just finished talking in Italy with someone, probably in Piemonte. Then we're looking at the trilogy in Patagonia and Galicia, in the Rias Baixas and Mexico to do a movie. We are in plans to do another 2 TV shows in Europe, one in Spain and one in Italy, another very light. But, for me was one of the best things I ever did is to spend a month in the country that I was born, learning about the families of wine and the Entre Viñas, which is Tanat Entre Viñas or Uruguay Entre Viñas, that's how it's called. It went out for 90 million people in Spanish between Patagonia and Alberta. So
Wow.
90 people, were able to watch, my TV show. Then it went to Food Network in Mexico. Then it went to Food Network in Brazil. And now last year I make translation from Polish. So now it's Food Network Poland. So
Nice.
when you talk about a guy who started putting his nose in a barrel when he was 7-8 years old, serve wine like like a real service person, because that's what I love. I wanted to be the best sommelier. I wanted to be the best maître d'hôtel. I wanted to be the best bartender. I wanted to be the person who was always well informed, up to date with the label and the wine list that I was actually honing. Because you make a wine list, it's not because such and such is telling you should put this wine in your... No. It's your palate. Yeah, the expensive Sassicaia should be there, or the good Mouton, or the good Merceau, or the good bottle of, Chardonnay blend should be from northern Italy or California, or there's great wines in Mexico right now. I tell you, I taste about 50 wines from Mexico this past June, July in Calabria. Let me just tell you, you cannot believe the quality, and they're not expensive. We're talking about between $20 or $30 a bottle. Now, what I can say to you is that every wine country now is progressing. There's no that you can find a great bottle of wine at €1, €2, €3, but the fun part is that to find, of course, the joke is always been, there's 2 things you need to know about wine: what color the wine you like and how much it costs, right? Because it's your wallet that dictates, right? It's your wallet. But you have to think about, myself right now that I'm working about 4 projects for 2023 for wine communication. I hope the most recent one, actually, there's 2. There's one in United Airlines. Hopefully soon, the trailer will be out. It's about how to taste wine for the Concours Mondial. As an American taster that spent 38 years living in the United States, what do people expect from a taster? How to explain the wine, and how you actually coach different palates from different backgrounds, because as you probably know, and this is something for you guys to learn too, that the Concours Mondial is probably one of the most democratic wine competitions we have today in the world. Now, nobody dictates from the back, or nobody push the medal from the back. And one of the things that I like to say to Badouin, the president, is all the time, I said, what I enjoy is the fraternity of the people on your table. Because me as a coach for the last 5-6 years, and you guys know I'm a coach in a round table, right? I'm the person who you serve wine to me. That's how we met.
I was there. There were
For
winemakers.
me, I feel right. There's winemakers. There's sommeliers. There's a restaurant owner. Let me tell you, in Calabria, I have this kid. He's crazy. I wish I can pronounce his name, but I can't. He's from Croatia. He's a nice guy. And then all of a sudden say, my restaurant is the only Michelin-star restaurant in Croatia. I said, bravo. He knew about wine, and he says, after half day, he said, maestro, you are my maestro. You have to come 3 days before to Croatia, and we do this, and we do that, and we do this, and we do that. I said, listen, for you it's the same like everybody. My table is I have a Spanish guy who likes to go and smoke his cigarette. I have to coach him and teach him and say, you sit down, and this is something interesting. The Concours Mondial tastes wines with iPads today, something that in China about 3 or 4 years ago it was crazy. We never knew that we were going to end up doing it. But the fun part is that when you work in the fraternity and how you actually get to know the background of everybody who comes from different wine country. You got the Sloveno person, you got the person from Hong Kong, maybe a Chinese guy, or maybe you got a guy from Japan. And how you melt that fraternity. And it's, to me, as a person who knows the wine business for a long time, to be try to coach. This is my perspective. I won't tell you this should be a medal, but just, think about what is inside the wine. Do we have the elements? Do we have the tannins, right? We say all the time, there's 5 things important when you taste wine. You see the color, of course, the nose, the sound, of course, and then you have the tannin, the alcohol, and the acidity, and then you have to know, all those things are in balance or not. And that is where I go all the time. When I think about, in Italia, we say il retrogusto. Madonna. When you say that in Spanish, people say, what a lovely word, il retrogusto. El retrogusto tells you a lot. It's what you have coming back when you taste a bottle of wine that probably doesn't sound. Yesterday, my friend Philippe, he said, Charlie, you're a big time taster. If you don't like this bubble, send it back. And listen, it's expensive bottle of champagne, blah, blah, blah. But I said, no, it might be a problem because the girl who's supposed to be probably a good sommelier, I won't blame her, but I said, the temperature wasn't ready. The temperature was not there. So, and this is something for someone, of course, that we know. When I see young sommeliers and you're serving wine at 40 Celsius, right? Or you're serving wine at, I don't know, maybe at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you know you have to do the temperature of the wine? Is that important? Let me just tell you, in Italy, in Spain, nobody does that unless you go to Catalonia. But in Italy, all about the temperature of wine. And this is why my school, by the way, I should say that also, I am honorary member of the AIS, Associazione Italiana Sommelier, until the day I die. I'm so proud because I learned to, like a relatore, to narrate wine the Italian style and translate it to English, translate it to Spanish, translate it to Portuguese, and translate it to French. Now, the techniques and the tactics of tasting wine in every single different language is completely different. But you need to know how to balance. You need to know the words. I like to say all the time, one of the most easy grapes to describe and define out there is the Syrah from Australia. Powerful, a lot of punch, spicy, tobacco, cedar. I love that. I love that. I remember, a gay guy one day said, I want to meet that guy. I want to meet that person. I said, who's that
Charlie,
big guy? Yeah, tell me.
Charlie, actually,
No,
this could be
sorry.
another question. Leads us to the other question. If you had to choose one grape that could actually describe your personality, which grape would you choose and why?
Oh, well, you know what?
Interesting.
I'm learning. I saw about that. I saw that question. I probably would like to say I like to be. I'm like a when I was young I was like a Tempranillo guy, and then I became Sangiovese, but now I'm between Sagrantino and Tanat. Because Sagrantino, it has that. Yeah, I know. Listen. I will send this to Marco Caprai, believe me, because Marco, I love Marco. I look. Thanks to Marco, look what I wear. Look. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
Cruciani,
Cruciani.
I Cruciani Umbri. So, Sagrantino is one of those grapes that you say, my God, this mean is so powerful, and it has so much, I would say, tannin driven and acidity, but ages graciously, and I think that's how I identify myself. Sometimes I wonder if maybe I'm a Tanat, but Tanat it has so much, it's a relentless grape that sometimes you don't understand the very end, and could be 8 years, 10 years, or 14 years, right? Listen,
Yeah.
I tell you one thing. I found a place around here the other day. I told my wife, one of the most famous Madiran, one of the most famous, Tanat denomination of origin, which is Madiran. He has this bottle of wine that Montus. I don't know if you guys know Montus, Chateau Montus.
Of course.
In
Of
America,
course we do.
in America, you need $150 to buy a bottle of Montus. 150. Here it's
Really?
26 euros. 26 here in my neighborhood here, somewhere. I bought
Chateau
six.
Montelusso is
I
my
bought six
favorite
bottles.
wine from the area. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, put in perspective, Montus, of course, Tanat is that great, but of course, the Tanat from Madirani has much more power than the Tanat from Uruguay, right? In Uruguay, it's much more mellow, much more vinosity, and it has more plums and prunes, that the violet that you find here, of course. But when I say this, is that as we grow older, right? I think your palate is changing. Remember, I'm going back to ground zero here of tasting. You were 20, 25 years old. Your taste buds are jumping. You got 20,000 of them right here. Bam, 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 bam. Now, when you cross 45, 48, the taste buds are gone and you have 3,000, 2,000. But what you remember is that taste memory. Remember that phrase? I'm going to send it to you because in every wine list, actually, as a matter of fact, what I'm saying, I'm going to tell you right now how that, because my assistant, Alison Grisco, used to tell me, Charlie, every time you make a wine list in this hotel, you put this phrase. James Beer, by the way, is the founder of the American Grill. He was an old man that he is the person who was the founder of the American Grill in the United States. And he said, taste memory, the ability to recall a taste sensation that is a good given talent aching to a perfect pitch. Of course, the perfect pitch is what you remember in order to bring the grape or any flavor, maybe it could be the food, which makes your life richer if you possess it. Every time you remember a flavor, every time you remember the
Yeah.
memory of a tasting, could be a bottle of wine, could be an aroma, could be, a perfume. I learned to taste wine with parfumier in Bordeaux, with people that they are in the perfume business. And that was a great combination. And sometimes, due to my duel of wine, no, not the duel of wine much, but the ways of wine, the movie, I sat down with professors about the smell. I sat down with doctors about the smell, right? And I learned so much about what happened when you lose your palate. Now, primary, secondary, tertiary aromas, of course,
That's it.
when you go up to your 60s, if you don't have it, you better study, By the way, I told you about my first wife, how I lost, my first wife. My second wife didn't drink. And she used to say, oh, you're always drunk. I said, no, I'm not drunk. I'm tasting wine. I'm tasting wine. And when she starts seeing me on TV, in Miami and in the United States, she say, "Oh, Arturaola, my God, you made it." They say, "No, Viv, I didn't make it. I just continued learning and tasting because the passion that I have for beautiful industry that is the wine business. It's a world that we all belong because we have passion of promoting the families behind the labels and the people that we learn throughout the voyage. I can tell you my first sit down in La Rufina. You know La Rufina, right?
Of course, Chianti,
Chianti La
Chianti.
Rufina.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. 1994. I'm sitting down with a bunch of fellows from Rome that come to 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 buy Montalcino in 10 little demijohns from Rome in a truck, and I start teaching them what was the grape. They were actually fellows. I said, "You guys are Italian. You buying wine. You don't know Brunello or Chianti is Sangiovese." I say, "Oh, look at this. The Americano is telling us how to is the wine." Ma you say, tu non sei americano. You are not Americano. You speak Italian. I say, yeah, I speak Italian. Because I grew up in an Italian neighborhood in Uruguay, so I learned a little bit since I was a kid. I learned Italian, and I make a movie in Italian. The Duel of Wine is an Italian movie. Now, when I say this, is that we are in a world that we have to put ourselves in front of people all the time to defend the communication of wine the best we can. And that is probably my pet peeve today. You probably see me the other day, a woman that I know from Texas say, why you drink cheap Pinot Grigio? Why you drink cheap Pinot Noir? Or why you drink cheap Alsace? No, you don't understand. I'm just tasting Gewürztraminer. I'm tasting Pinot Gris from Alsace. I'm tasting Pinot Grigio from Italy. I'm tasting Condrieu. I'm tasting Hermitage, Grenache, la Garnacha Bianca, or Grenache Blanc, or
No.
Garnacha Blanca from Catalonia. I love to compare that because it's what you take. And I know that we can talk about these guys hours and hours because maybe,
Yeah.
maybe one day, no, maybe when I make a movie, I invite you for the trilogy. I invite you for the trilogy in
Please.
Patagonia. Remember, you're going to have to go to Chubut. That's where we
We
go.
will do it.
So, what other
So,
question we have here?
so I would like to know, according to you, I mean, the wine business is continually changing. There are new trends coming out, new things that people would like to try, and so on and so forth. So I would like to know, how did you see the wine industry changing over the years? And according to you, is it for the better or for the worse? How is it changing?
No. What I like, thank you for that. No, what I see is that is for the better because I enjoy the wines of Romania. I enjoy the wines from Moldavia. I enjoy the wines from Bolivia. Bolivia has great Merlot, good Tanat.
Yeah.
I enjoy the wines from Vancouver. There's great wines in the Okanagan. Great
Of
Cabernet
course.
Sauvignon that we have. Right, and then we have the Pinot, from the very south island of New Zealand. I mean, that is wonderful. And I have to say, when you say, remember that I come from the times that people needed to know, and you guys are young, of course, 30 something years ago, you needed to know Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, and Sauvignon Blanc. Those are your three first. Then Pinot, Merlot, and Cabernet. And goodbye. Charlie
That's
came
it.
to the wine business. I put Malbec. I add Malbec. I add Syrah. In my wine list by the glass. This is 25, 30 years ago. I add Riesling. I'm sorry, Torrontés. From Spain.
Wow.
I mean, no. I mean, I'm sorry. Rias
Argentina.
Baixas from Spain.
Ah, yeah?
Yeah, and Torrontés from Argentina. And people say to me, oh, yeah, because you're from South America, you do this. I say, no. It's what people like because I talk to people every day. People like fresher wines. People love to taste fruity wines. People love to see, different characters in every wine. I think my wife is coming to have a glass of champagne now, right? She's
Yeah,
she's
introduce us to
They want to say hello. This is Alben and Aghen.
We would love, yes.
Hi.
Hello, Laura. Hello, Pandora. Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You make
Look
a
at
great
you all
couple
dressed
together.
up.
You make a
Sorry?
great couple together. You are together. You are gorgeous together. Belli,
We're
belli,
together
bellissimi.
16 years.
20.
16 years
20.
married and 20 together.
Well, I make a toast to
20.
you. Many more to come. Cheers and Merry Christmas.
Well,
Buon
we
Natale.
Yeah. Merry
well,
Christmas. I'm
well,
going to go get the bubbles.
yeah. No, one of the things, Pandora was selling me wine. Was selling me Chianti Classico. We met for a bottle of Chianti Classico, and it was a bottle of Villa Cafaggio, that she actually challenged me to taste wine with the food of the Italian restaurant where I was working with some Italian Americans. And she goes, that's a great, actually, we're trying to make a script to make a movie about that because it will be awesome to do it. By the way, I was waiting for this. This is Diego Valois. This is a Craman Prestige. It's a Grand Cru vineyard. And Craman, this is, people call Blanc de Blanc, right, in other parts of Champagne. But this is probably, for the last 30 years, I've been drinking Craman, which is the town that makes the best Grand Cru Chardonnay in Champagne.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, Pandora says in the other room, it's not Cremon, it's Crama. It's with A,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
And this
we
is
got it.
Diego Valois. Diego Valois is a neighbor. She lives around here, Madame. And by the way, my friend in Italy from Partesa, always make sure to tell the winery that Charlie is going to review their champagne, and because of you guys today, and we came from Champagne, we
Yeah.
say we need to pop champagne tonight. Champagne and sushi, Pandora said. But what a pleasure! What a pleasure! I gonna pop this and need a glass. Listen, I don't know how many of us can do that, the day before Christmas right here. But you know, where the wine business is going, where the wine business is going. Look, I believe I come from Champagne. Everybody with the flute, right? Bigger champagne,
Yeah.
bigger glasses, and I enjoy it like you guys are doing because it is the way to drink. This. I mean, look at the mousse. The mousse is unbelievable. As I said, this
Nice
is
bottle. Yeah,
Chardonnay.
sure. But the
Yeah.
shape of the bottle itself is outstanding. Yeah.
Chin chin.
Remarkable.
Cheers.
Chin chin, Charlie. Chin
To a
Charlie.
wonderful Christmas, to a better. I'm going to invite Aghen and Alba to actually be part of our trilogy. By the way, the next movie, Pandora has a lot to work because it's all about Welsh people. That's what we hope.
Ah,
We
okay.
hope. Well,
Okay.
yeah. Well, you guys know more or less about the Welsh in England, right? Chin chin.
We know more or less.
But going back to the wine business, where it's going, it's getting everybody richer. It's getting everybody enthused. Now, when I see all this big list of masters of wine, sometimes I wonder how these people, are teaching these days. So somebody said the other day a number. I don't know if it's true. You need between 30,000 sterling pounds to 40,000 sterling pounds to become a master of wine.
This is what they say.
I saw.
This is what they say.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, we are gonna try to change that to show people that actually you can become master of wine with much less. Why do you need to spend all those money to become a master of wine? Why?
That's a good point. Now, when you put in perspective, us 30 years ago, 35 years ago, we were tasting and tasting and tasting the same Chablis. Today, I'm going to show you the picture what we brought today from Champagne. Not only Champagne, Sancerre, uh, you know, Merceau, Condrieu, Châteauneuf du
Yeah.
Pape,
Uh,
yeah, no, I mean, the what?
great.
Cross Hermitage, white and red, and I said those are the same labels that I saw when I was a kid in the Dominican Republic in a fancy restaurant. Now, of course, the producers are not the same. The producers got changed. The wineries got sold. There's new families, like everything in business, right? Now, we all happy to know them, but you cannot really become a master of wine today if you're going to actually make the wine unreachable to the everyday people. So,
Yeah.
you have great wines around here in the Loire, in the Saumur, in Bourgueil, San Nicolas de Bourgueil, in the Loire Valley, that you are between 4 and 7 and 9 euros. You have great Beaujolais. Vive la France. That's what my wife is saying on the other side. Vive la France. When you think about, you go to a restaurant here and no wine is over 32 euros, and I was drinking in a Michelin star place about a year ago. Now it's closed, but I was drinking a Cahors wine from the 70s, at 52 euros. 52 euros
Exceptionally good
from the
for
70s.
sure. Exceptionally good for
Right,
sure.
but,
That
but
actually leads me to the next question.
yes.
Do you have a favorite restaurant? And what should we order if we go there? Because you are a wine connoisseur, food lover, food connoisseur, everything. You've been in the wine business, in the beverage business, in the food business for years and years, an expert. So we would like to know if you have a restaurant to recommend and also what
Okay,
you should
I
order
have
if you go there.
number one restaurant. You go to Il Giglio in Montalcino,
Yes?
and in downtown Montalcino, and you oh wow, and you order shush cinghiale,
The boar.
wild boar.
Wild boar.
Yeah, wild boar is stew with polenta. And
My
soon
God. And what do
now
you
in
drink
winter,
with
now
that?
in winter,
And what do you
a
drink with that?
Brunello di Montalcino, a Brunello di Montalcino Riserva. Of course, I'm in Montalcino. Now, we have another restaurant in Burgundy that is called Ma Cuisine, a great luncheon place. What we eat there when we go to Ma
I
Cuisine?
always eat liver or sweetbreads.
Pandora eats sweetbreads and liver because she likes that. I grew up with
I love
eating
it.
liver. But I like bolaila. I like the what? Yeah,
Duck there.
well, I love duck. I love duck. I love duck breast slices, right?
Yeah, of
And a
course.
nice bottle of
Very tasty.
Burgundy, of course. By the way, a nice bottle of Burgundy that is not the Chassagne Montrachet, is not the Pomard, is not the Volnay, and I tell you two little tips that you can buy it for half of the price of those great AOC or AOP. Marange or Irancy, right?
You don't
The
see.
Marange
Yeah.
Premier Cru. The Irancy is great, and you don't spend a lot of money, but if you go Marange, and you can go 8, 10, 12 years and you won't go. I don't spend more than 100 euros when I go to a restaurant, in wine. I
Except for last night.
Yeah, well, I was 103, 104, but yeah, I
Double.
was paying for the vintage. Now, in Epernay, we have a place it's called La Grillade Gourmande. My goodness, last night I got pluma iberico ham, loin,
Wow.
La Pluma,
Il Patagonia.
from Andalusia. And we have an incredible bottle of shush, it was a Lux Corton. But as I said, it was 2014 vintage, something like that, 9 years. When that's something that I like to look for when I go to places, even when I buy wine in a wine store. A friend of mine from Bordeaux say very interesting thing when we moved here. We've been coming and going here for 2.5 years. They say, Charlie, the good thing is in Normandy, nobody knows much about wine, so you can buy cheap wine here. Good prices.
Yeah.
I can take you to a place
Very good.
around here. You buy 3 liters of Pomerol from 1990s for $120. I mean, I can tell you, I know where the holes are, because I go hunting. I call wine hunting, right? For all vintages.
Yeah.
And that is
Well,
what a
yeah.
wine connoisseur, that's what a wine connoisseur should look. Now, Pandora and I, when we got married, we have 4,100 bottles of wine. And it took about 12 years, I would say, to go to 3,300. And then we moved to another town, and we went down to 2,400 because we were, of course, calling of our friends, and we knew in a way that we were coming this way, and we were able to sell maybe to our friends, and many of our friends are having some of our best wines, but we got rid of the wines that they don't age much, and we actually came to this part of the world paying big time, the wine, I would say taxes, 1,000 bottles. Now, some of those wines, I saw the other day, I got a bottle of Pinot from Robert Mondavi himself from 1999. I mean, dedicated to me by Robert Mondavi himself. Now, there's so many wine people that I know, in Bordeaux, which of course, Cabernet Sauvignon, I always like to say is one of the grapes that I like. The mutation of Cabernet. The Cabernet in Chile, the Cabernet in Australia, the Cabernet in California, of course, in Napa Valley. All those things that you learn throughout your wine palate and how your palate evolves and develops, of course. I was drinking yesterday a bottle of Pinot from the Côte Champenois, which, of course, not many wineries that they make champagne make red wine, right? But it's a thing that people
Yeah.
like to take. Like you probably like to take a Pinot Meunier, a champagne made out of Pinot Meunier, which, of course,
Yeah.
is a singular thing. I mean, you as a sommelier today, you enrich yourself and you enrich your clients when you bring something different to the wine list. A hand
True.
sale. I work with discovering Italy. I used to sell Opus One for $75. To Joe DiMaggio, one of the best baseball players in the world. Back in the 90s in Miami. I work in a very fancy Italian restaurant. Where all the fancy families from Italy living in America will come and enjoy dinners. I was the only guy between an Abruzzese, a Siciliano, a Romanaccio, and a Pugliese. And Charlie was the wine guy with all those people. And I say, guys, come on, you're Italian. You don't know what is Brunello and Amarone. And you don't know the difference between Barolo and Barbaresco. Come on. And I say, Charlie, ti abbiamo a te. I say, we have you. They said, but you guys think I'm an encyclopedia that I just got to. They said, no, you have a good palate. But, I was 29 years old. But, of course, I was already coming to go around the world in a cruise line, serving Italian wine, serving good Bordeaux, serving good Burgundy, serving good California wine. And when I say this, I love the idea of some of the people that they say to me, like a friend of mine said to me the other day, say, I think I'm moving to Dubai to serve wine in Dubai. And he was at La Galleria in Milan, right?
Ah. Yeah.
I said, yeah, from La Galleria in Milan, he moved to Dubai. I said, I don't know how many Arabs they're gonna drink wine over there, but I clap because this is how you learn. In my days, the cruise line was my way of learning, but I learned culture.
Like you
It's the
did.
culture behind the power, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many how you say pros and cons of what's going on in the wine business today. What I do not want to see from a wine school today is that they make this tribe or sect that there's this young person or older person that they just read wine, and I say to them, "Have you ever take a tray? Have you ever serve a tray? Have you ever?" I say, "Well, that's my difference. I come from within, right? I
Yeah.
serve wine. Yeah, of course, I drop wine, a Pinot Grigio, and a glass of Chianti Classico, in somebody's back when I was 23, right? But I come from inside. I come from inside the business.
Yes.
Some other people come from the study of the book. Now, how you apply that? A friend of mine wanted to be master of wine because she read all the books. Say, Mama, reading all the books. I mean, yes, you can make a theory, you can make a thesis, you can write, but how you actually travel to the places? I mean, I have a friend of mine in Vegas that he's a big wig in Vegas, master sommelier, and he used to come and crash in my house for many, 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 many days. And I said, Charlie, meanwhile, I read the book and I read the encyclopedia. You go 3 weeks to Europe and you come with more experience, than I have reading the book. And I say, look, I don't smoke cigarettes. I smoke cigars once a month. I smoke one cigar. But if I am in Toscana and I speak Toscanaccio, I drink a coffee, I make a cigarette with the winemaker at 8 o'clock in the morning. I learn more than what I found in a book, right? That was my thing in the 90s and 2000, for 30 years, because yeah, the book is great, but if you cannot really travel. But if I can travel like I did, I was so lucky. My restaurant used to spend 6 weeks without opening. I said, Charlie, voy a andare in Toscana, voy a andare in Piemonte. My wife and I, when we met, we usually don't say this to many people, but we met in Monfortino, in Monforte. We traveled to Monforte
Yeah.
Alba the first time. 11
Yeah.
days in Monforte Alba.
18.
18 years ago. Yeah.
No, 18 days.
18 days. And I said, oh my God, I found someone who learned wine. She knew Barolo. And the owner of one day you have to go, and this is a place where you eat well, but you have to eat Piemontese there in Monforte. You have to eat risotto, in la Casa de la Saraca. La Casa de la Saraca. Remember, La Saraca. La Saraca
Remember
in
that.
Chabot, in front of the pharmacy up in the hill in Monforte Alba. He said, Giulio, the pharmacista, he said, Charlie, where you were born? 1961. And your girlfriend? 1958. We were going to have Felicin, which is another place to eat good pasta. Felicin, ravioli del plain, We
Yeah.
didn't go to Felicin that day. We ate sausages and bread, and we have 19. It was what was it? Pioche? No, it wasn't
No, it
Pioche.
was Borgogne.
Borgogno 58 and Borgogno 61.
Nice.
He opened 2 bottles of Barolo, and I said, "Oh my God, let me just tell you. I mean, yes, we talk about Burgundy all the time, the finest silky tanning texture, right? But let me tell you, when Barolo ages, un Barolon, who's gonna beat the Barolo, right? We came from America with 350 bottles of Barolo, my wife and I. I didn't touch my Barolos because I collect Barolos. Lucky us, there's Barolos all the way to 1982. I have Reserva Barolo, Marchese di Barolo. Marchese di Barolo. It's around there, And when I talk about this, guys, I mean, those days were completely different than today. We were more genuine.
Valentina.
We were more genuine I got a call today. I'm gonna be doing a big tasting in Verona Fiere in April, I hope. And somebody said, "You're gonna team up with Partesa." Partesa is the most powerful young, driven company that is collecting the best of the best, you know, wineries between Portugal, Spain, France, and Italy. Um, and I said to my friend Alessandro, I said, look, when I see your portfolio, when I see the quality of the wine, when I see what people actually enjoy drinking, and I see 2,000 Italian guys going to the Palazzo di Bologna or going to the Museum of Art in Milan, 2,000. Everybody industry, everybody trade. I'm not talking about people outside the business. No, trade, sommeliers, FISA, Associazione Italiana Sommelier, Fondazione Italiana, I was going to say Fondazione Italiana Calcio, non è la fondazione, okay. Franco Ricci, okay. And I say to these guys, look, this is wonderful, because it's all trade. And when I make my wine tasting for 120 people, and I see everybody so passionate and they ask you questions, and me that I come from outside Italy, that I have the words in English because, of course, most of the time my Italian doesn't come out unless I drink 3 bottles of Italian wine. Then I speak Pugliese.
That's the secret.
Yeah. I speak Toscanaccio and Romanaccio all together in one thing. But as I said to you before,
Charlie,
as I said to you before, Sagrantino could be the great to go.
Okay, very good. Charlie, last question.
Listen, that's a picture. Look what a great picture. By the way, that's Pandora's great grandmother back here. That's Kate Sheffield. That she came from New London, from Connecticut. She came with us. She is the one taking care of it.
Very good. Charlie, last question, and then we let you enjoy your nice champagne with Pandora. This is a good one.
Perfect.
What is the meaning of life for you? In a few words, what is the meaning of life for you?
The meaning of life to me will be to arrive to our last bottle of wine, the last day of my life, with my wife next to me.
I believe this is
the perfect picture. The
perfect
picture.
end of an incredible journey. Actually, it's not a perfect end. It's a new beginning.
Now, wait. There's a saying that I have that I have to bring it up because it's important. In America, there's a saying that goes like this: the one who dies with the most toys win, right? Have you heard about that phrase? You guys are young. You probably, in America, we say that, meaning like you have to buy all the toys. You have to buy all things that you like. Yes, like us, the wine people, we need to have all the wines. We need to have the Brunellos, the Barolos, the Barbaresco, the Amarone, the Valpolicella, the Montrachet. We need them all. But also, I want to win the other way, drinking them all in my lifetime. Drinking them all with the person I like to drink with it, because I feel bad sometimes, unless I'm mad and I'm drinking because I'm drinking. I learned a lot from a Calabrese ex-boss in Miami for 7 years, that he used to teach me a lot about Italian wine. And sometimes he was say, Charlie, when I'm mad, I drink sherry with olives and black olives and raisins, blah, blah, blah. But when I think about the meaning of life is how we enrich, our lives within the passion of wine, and traveling, like just today, coming from seeing a friend, that I met him in the industry 25 years ago, and we still keep our friendship through a glass of champagne in this case, or going to Puglia about a month and a half ago. I saw a guy that I don't see for 5 years, and we're like brothers. He's from Sardinia. He's from Alghero, from the north. You know, I
Yeah.
I think the meaning of life could be, a very long, long, long answer. If I have to think it and elaborate it more, but it will be like, put it this way. The other day, an Argentinian guy said, "Charlie, what Charlie does in Normandy with Pandora? We no, we ran away from the big city of 6 million people to live in a town of 600 people. We live three kilometers away from the Atlantic Ocean, in the cliffs here. Now, I find out that my great grandmother was from here. I didn't know. I'm not really, keen with French. I speak French, but not fluent. But I have to say, when all the puzzle is together, that wine can be helpful to you. I don't know if I mean helpful, not to get drunk or trash drinking wine, to
No, I
enrich,
understand.
with yourself, with your wife, with the one that we love the most, the person, and the friends that you have around you. I mean, that's its enrichment. That is actually has no, if I tell you, I also thought about this answer when you guys gave me the questionnaire too. One of my greatest
Yes.
satisfactions in the world was to be with my father the last 15 days of his life, next to him. He was 92 years old, the old Basque guy. And I was always afraid that not to arrive on time. But I was. We were in Nepal, in Lhasa, with my wife, and we actually flew back to Chicago, Miami, Uruguay, Montevideo, myself. 39 hours in different planes to be a fianco, next to my dad in the hospital. I was so happy. And one of the things that I couldn't do to my father, when he asked me, "Give me a glass of wine," I know I'm on my way out. I say, "Dad, no, I kill you." He said, well, he was telling me, "Kill me. I don't care. Give me a bottle of wine, or give me a glass of wine, or give me a beer, give me alcohol." And I feel bad for that. I still feel bad for that, because I didn't give
Yeah.
what we like the most.
Yeah.
And he always used to say to me, "I teach you wine." And the meaning of life today is try to live with everything, within your means. I mean, that's, if I tell
Enjoy
you,
yourself.
and enjoy. If I tell you, we have a lovely house that is fixing ourselves, right? I mean, I should say, we actually
Thank you.
fixing this great warehouse right there, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
we have a fireplace. We have a lovely Wi-Fi. We have 3,000 square meters here, and we never live in a house. We always live in an apartment building in front of the ocean. Now we are 3 kilometers away from the ocean, but you know what? When spring comes and summer comes, Normandy, nothing can beat Normandy. We are 3 hours away from England in a ferry. We are an hour and 45 minutes from Paris. And I have to say, guys, I mean, for me, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
It's a pleasure for
In vino,
us. Pleasure, Charlie.
in vino
It,
veritas. In vino veritas.
it didn't hit us. It was heartwarming. Charlie, thank you very much, really, for your time. It has been amazing, as always, and I believe that our followers are going to enjoy so much.
It has
this
been
interview.
heartwarming, genuine, and real. That's what we love, and that's
Yeah.
what everyone loves. So
So
thank you.
thank you very much.
Before
We want
before I
really to
go,
be.
before I go,
Yeah?
before I go, Il Giglio Montalcino, ma cuisine
We remember.
In bone.
in Bonn, in La Borgogna, and La Grillade Normande in Epernay. Those are three of our
Wow.
favorite places. Oh, and Chantilly in Napa Valley to eat lamb chops. If you go to California, ever.
We are going to remember that.
Go
We are
to
going to remember that because we are here in the interview and we are going to go there, I promise you. Thank you very much,
Wow,
really.
listen,
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
We don't
Charlie.
know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
come
Charlie.
over. Pandora
And
wants to
Merry
say goodbye.
Christmas. Yeah. Merry
Christmas,
Christmas,
Madonna.
Madonna.
Charlie. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Bye-bye.
You are an inspiration. You are an inspiration. Thanks a lot for everything.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Looking forward to hear all this.